A 26-year-old man has been charged with murder in connection with the beating death of his father. At around 3:55 p.m. on Friday the 2nd of June, authorities responded to the 300 block of Vincent Avenue in Rockford, Illinois and reports of an unresponsive man. When officers arrived, they found a man face down in a pool of blood on the living room floor with several lacerations to his head and abrasions on both arms. A sewing machine was found next to his head, as well as a broken wooden walking stick and several broken pieces of glass nearby. Authorities said that 64-year-old Roger Pitts was found dead by a friend who had stopped by his home. An autopsy determined that Roger died from blunt force trauma to his head. During the investigation, detectives identified Roger's son, 26-year-old Devin Pitts, as the suspect. Police concluded Roger's death resulted from exceptionally brutal and heinous behaviour, indicative of wanton cruelty. According to a witness, Devin had threatened to kill his father on multiple occasions, including the day before the murder. His violent behaviour, including allegedly beating his cousin with a bat, resulted in multiple orders of protection filed against him by his friends and family. On Monday the 5th of June, Devin was arrested after police tracked a phone call placed by him to a home on the 1300 block of Bond Avenue. A garbage bag containing bloodstained clothes was found inside the residence. He is charged with first-degree murder and is held at the Winnebago County Jail without bond. A married couple are charged with child endangerment after officers found them overdosing in a parking garage. At 8:19 p.m. on Friday the 2nd of June, authorities were called to 200 North Jackson Street in Janesville, Wisconsin, on a report of a man and a woman being unconscious in a vehicle. 3 children, all under the age of 6, were found in the back of the car. Police determined that 31-year-old DeMarco Whitby and 26-year-old Ricky Whitby had both operated the vehicle and used heroin, cocaine, and alcohol while driving with the children in the car. The children were unharmed and were turned over to a responsible party. Ricky and DeMarco were medically treated and taken to the Rock County Jail. They're charged with operating while intoxicated with passengers under 16, felony child neglect, possession of cocaine, possession of a narcotic drug, possession of a controlled substance, and possession of THC. A 67-year-old man is behind bars and is accused of shooting a Dollar General store customer over the weekend. The incident occurred on the evening of Sunday the 4th of June at the Dollar General located at 6798 West Gulf to Lake Highway in Crystal River, Florida. According to the Citrus County Sheriff's Office, Oscar Omo DeBelmo got into a verbal altercation with the victim at the entrance of the store. Following the dispute, Oscar walked to his vehicle and put his items inside and grabbed his handgun. He then walked across the parking lot, where he confronted the victim who was attempting to get into his car. Witnesses advised that they watched Oscar point the firearm at the victim and fire multiple times. No one saw the victim with a weapon. Investigators located 6 shell casings just feet from the victim's vehicle. The victim was shot a total of 4 times, twice in the abdominal area, once in the elbow, and a single round grazing the victim's side. The victim was rushed to a local hospital in a critical but stable condition. Oscar was arrested and charged with attempted murder and is held at the Citrus County Jail without bond. An 83-year-old man is behind bars and is accused of fatally shooting his 78-year-old ex-partner over a fight they had regarding her new relationship. At around 6:50 p.m. on Saturday the 3rd of June, officers responded to a residence in the 8500 block of Seafield Lane in Rowlett, Texas on reports of an unconscious person. When officers arrived, they found Sharon Radabor, who had been shot inside her home. She was pronounced dead at the scene. During the investigation, authorities learned that this was not a random act of violence, but rather an act that stemmed from a previous relationship. Police identified Wilson Elliott of Trinity, Texas as the primary suspect. At around 5:30 p.m. the following day, Wilson was taken into custody. While questioned, Wilson allegedly confessed to detectives that he fatally shot Sharon after confrontation about a new relationship. Wilson is charged with murder and is held on a $1 million bond. 58-year-old Susan Lawrence is behind bars for allegedly fatally shooting her neighbour 35-year-old Ajika's A.J. Owens last week. Sheriff Billy Woods of the Marin County Sheriff's Office in Ocala, Florida, said that Ajika's was a 35-year-old mother of 4, and the fatal shooting was a culmination of a 2.5-year feud between the neighbours. According to the sheriff's office, evidence showed that over time, Susan had become angry over Jika's children playing in the field close to her apartment. On the night of Friday the 2nd of June, Susan got into an argument with the children and was overheard yelling at them by a neighbour. During the argument, Susan threw a roller skate at Ajika's 10-year-old son and hit him in the toe. The boy and his 12-year-old brother then went to speak to Susan, and she opened her door and swung at them with an umbrella. They told their mother what happened, and Ajika approached Susan's home, knocked on the door multiple times, and demanded that Susan come outside. Susan then fired one shot through the apartment door, striking Ajika in her upper chest. At around 9 p.m. that night, deputies initially responded to a trespassing call at Susan's apartment, located in the 1600 block of Southwest 107th Lane in Ocala, Florida. When they arrived, they found Ajika suffering from a gunshot wound. She was taken to a local hospital where she later died. Authorities said that at the time she was shot, Ajika's 10-year-old son was standing beside her. When questioned by investigators, Susan claimed that she acted in self-defense and that Ajika was trying to break down a door. Susan said that Ajika had come after her in the past and had previously attacked her. Authorities said that through their investigation, which included obtaining witness statements, digital evidence, surveillance footage and forensic evidence, they were able to establish that Susan's actions were not justifiable under Florida law. On the night of the 6th of June, Susan was arrested and booked into the Marin County Jail. She is charged with manslaughter with a firearm, culpable negligence, battery and 2 counts of assault. If convicted on the manslaughter charge, Susan faces up to 30 years in prison. The investigation into the matter continues. A man has celebrated a record deal by burning money at a party over the weekend, got into an argument with a music manager who shot him multiple times, killing him. At 1:17 a.m. on Sunday the 4th of June, the victim, 32-year-old Jaron Smith, was found inside a Ford Mustang that crashed at the corner of Orange Avenue and Carolyn Street in Daytona Beach, Florida. 27-year-old Robert Blue, who witnesses described as a music manager, was arrested the following day. Jaron was transported to the Halifax Health Medical Center, where he died of gunshot wounds. Investigators learnt from witnesses that someone had rented a suite at 955 Orange Avenue to host a party for 20 people, but more people showed up because there was free alcohol and food. A witness who was with Jaron when he was shot told investigators that Jaron was outside burning money because he was excited that he just signed a record deal and had received 1 million views on Instagram. Robert saw Jaron burning the money and asked him why he was doing that. Jaron and Robert got into an argument, and Jaron challenged Robert to a fight. Robert then took out a gun and pointed it at Jaron, who in turn sprayed Robert with pepper spray before punching him in the face. Witnesses said they heard at least 7 gunshots fired from Robert's gun. Robert was seen driving away from the scene along Carolyn Street. The following day, Robert was taken into custody and was charged with second-degree murder. Robert's also previously been arrested on unrelated charges, such as aggravated assault, resisting arrest and possession of cannabis. A 24-year-old mother has been charged with the death of her 5-year-old son. On the evening of the 23rd of January, Derricka Fleming put his son Lamar Tyrone Mitchell to bed in their apartment before going upstairs to visit a neighbor at the Saraville Apartments in the Clinton Township of Detroit, Michigan. While she was gone, the boy got out of bed and left the apartment. The following morning, he was found frozen to death in a nearby playground. On Wednesday the 31st of May, Derricka was arraigned on 1 count of involuntary manslaughter. She has been placed in jail with a cash bond of $100,000. If released, she'll need to wear a GPS tether. Her next court appearance is set for the 12th of June. If convicted, she faces up to 15 years in prison. 19-year-old Jose Contreras is behind bars after being accused of fatally shooting his girlfriend, 18-year-old Zoe Salinas. The incident occurred on the night of Tuesday the 30th of May, near the intersection of Tyler Avenue and Bond Street in Fresno, California. Investigators said the couple got into a heated argument in the car that led to the shooting. It's unclear what the argument was about. At 10:49 p.m, authorities responded to the scene on reports of gunfire. When first responders arrived, Zoe was found in the car unresponsive from gunshot wounds. Officers and paramedics attempted life-saving measures. However, Zoe was declared dead at the scene. Witnesses helped officers identify Zoe's boyfriend Jose as a suspect. Police said Jose ran to a nearby neighborhood after the shooting. Officers quickly located Jose. He was armed with a semi-automatic handgun at the time of his arrest. Jose allegedly confessed to shooting Zoe. Authorities said that the couple had been dating for about 4 years. Jose initially underwent a mental evaluation after threatening to harm himself. Jose is currently held at the Fresno County Jail and is charged with murder. The investigation into the matter continues. 23-year-old Damien Comminger and his 20-year-old girlfriend Ivana Perlozzi were arrested over the weekend after a 3-month infant daughter Genevieve was found dumped in a pile of trash after Damien reportedly shook her to death. Police located her body at around 10:30 p.m. on Sunday the 28th of May in a wooded area near West 161st Street and Summit Avenue in the Bronx, New York. Authorities said that the family had been living in a transitional housing shelter at 1041 University Avenue, about a quarter of a mile down the road from where her body was found. On the 14th of May, Damien and Ivana had placed their daughter's corpse in a onesie and a hat, wrapped her in a blanket and placed her in a stroller. They then pushed their stroller containing her body outside the shelter to make it look like they were going out for a family outing, without raising any suspicion from shelter staff. After walking several blocks, the pair then placed Genevieve's body into a garbage bag, before disposing of the bag and the stroller into a wooded area amongst a pile of trash. Damien's father, 47-year-old Donald Comminger, said that his son became evasive after his call from Louisiana this past Sunday, adding that he never heard sounds of his granddaughter in the background as they spoke. Damien eventually admitted to his father that Genevieve had died. He told him that on the night of the 13th of May, Genevieve was screaming, so he shook her out of frustration. He said he then went to sleep because he was tired. He said that when he woke up, Genevieve was stiff and cold and not breathing. Donald then reported his son to police. Damien confessed to killing Genevieve to investigators, and he and Ivana led them to where they disposed of Genevieve's body. A medical examiner has yet to determine an exact cause of death, which has been deemed a homicide. On the night of Sunday the 28th of May, Damien was taken into custody on suspicion of murder and concealment of a corpse, while Ivana was arrested for concealment of a corpse. As Damien was arrested, he declared his love for his daughter and said it was a mistake. Damien is held in custody without bail pending a court hearing on Friday, whereas Ivana has been released with monitoring. The investigation into the matter continues. Authorities are investigating a mass shooting that left a woman dead and 6 others injured. The incident occurred at around 1 a.m. on Sunday the 4th of June in the 4800 block of West Iowa Street in the Austin neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois. Terry A. was part of a large group of about 100 people gathered to honor her ex-boyfriend, who was killed in a car crash 4 years ago. Investigators said that an argument erupted when someone within the group began shooting. Terry A. was one of 7 people shot as the crowd ran for cover. Her family said she was struck twice in the head. She was transported to the Mount Sinai Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. The other victims include a 17-year-old girl who was shot in the leg and a 28-year-old woman who was shot in the ear, and they were both treated in hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. 4 men aged between 27 to 29 were also shot, 3 of which suffered non-life-threatening injuries, but the 4th man remains hospitalized in a critical condition with a gunshot wound to his arm and chest. Authorities said the gunman was captured on CCTV, dressed in jeans and a white top, and was seen running towards Cicero Avenue. The motive in the attack remains unclear. No arrests have been made, as the investigation into the matter continues. A man is behind bars after allegedly fatally shooting his wife early Monday morning. At just after midnight on the 5th of June, a man called 911 to report his stepfather, 43-year-old David Harnowski, had just shot his wife multiple times inside the house on East First Place in Mesa, Arizona. Officers arrived to find David walking out of the home. As he was being detained, officers noticed what appeared to be blood on his hands and clothes. When Mesa police asked if anyone else was in the home, he said no before reportedly saying, "She's inside dead on the bed." When officers went inside, they found David's wife Amy dead from multiple gunshot wounds in the master bedroom. Officers recovered 2 guns in that room, along with another in the kitchen counter and multiple shell casings. Investigators said that Amy's son said he woke up to a commotion outside his bedroom door at around midnight. When he opened the door, he said he saw his mother and stepfather arguing. He told investigators that he heard David say that God told him he wasn't part of the family, and that Amy and her son were trying to hurt him. The argument moved into the backyard before Amy and her son went back inside. Amy's son told investigators that David returned a few minutes later, went to the master bedroom closet, and came out with a handgun. He said that's when he saw his stepfather shoot his mum 5 times, striking him multiple times in the face. He said as he ran from the home to call 911, he heard 10 more gunshots. David was booked on a charge of first-degree murder. 2 people were behind bars and were accused of attacking a man with a hammer. At around 1:45 a.m. on Tuesday the 30th of May, authorities responded to the 200 block of Columbia Street in Shreveport, Louisiana on reports of an attack. Responding officers were informed that a man, whose name remains anonymous, was being attacked by 2 people. Upon arrival, they found that the victim had been struck multiple times in the head with a hammer. He was transported to a local hospital with severe injuries, but is expected to survive. During the investigation, detectives identified 34-year-old Colin Nading and 32-year-old Brittany Behan as the suspects. On Friday the 2nd of June, they were arrested and charged with aggravated battery. Authorities have not discussed a motive in the attack, as the investigation into the matter continues. Authorities are investigating after a 34-year-old man was fatally shot over the weekend. At around 1:20 a.m. on Sunday the 4th of June, authorities responded to the 300 block of East Huron Street in the Streeterville neighborhood of Chicago, Illinois, and reports of shots fired. When first responders arrived, they found Zerrell Gist with multiple gunshot wounds. He was transported to the Northwest Memorial Hospital in a critical condition, where he succumbed to his injuries. Another victim, a 27-year-old man whose name remains anonymous, showed up at the same hospital with a gunshot wound to his left leg and said he was with the first victim. Authorities said that witnesses on scene were very uncooperative and refused to answer any questions about the incident. No arrests have been made, as the investigation into the matter continues. 41-year-old Michael Johnson is accused of living with his mother's dead body and using her social security benefits. At just before 10 a.m. on Thursday the 1st of June, Legal Process Division officials and police responded to a home in the 400 block of 5th Street in Bell, West Virginia to serve Peggy Johnson an eviction notice. At the scene, authorities reportedly noticed suspicious signs coming from inside the home and no indications of anyone present. They detected a foul smell emanating from the residence, as well as a lot of flies present. After entering the home, authorities located Peggy's decomposing body. Her son Michael Johnson was found hiding inside a closet, and he was taken into custody. During an interview, Michael reportedly confessed to living with his mother for the past few years, and revealed that she died in December of 2022. Peggy allegedly received around $1,000 in monthly social security benefits, and her son continued receiving and using those benefits after her death. In total, Michael used about $5,000 to $6,000. According to investigators, Michael was not on his mother's accounts, nor was he authorised to collect or use his mother's social security benefits. He was arrested and charged with obtaining money, property and services by false pretenses. He is held at the South Regional Jail on a $2,500 bond. Due to the severity of the victim's decomposition, the Sheriff's Office said the remains have not been positively identified, and the West Virginia State Medical Examiner's Office will perform an autopsy this week. Officials said they believe the person's been deceased for quite a long time. Authorities said that Michael is considered a person of interest in the death investigation. A 19-year-old woman was arrested on Thursday after threatening a man and a child with a knife. Bricia Malin Marina de Leon was charged with 2 counts of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, battery, and child neglect. The incident occurred at around 6:15 p.m. on the 1st of June, when authorities responded to a property at Roy's Trailer Park at 6500 Maloney Avenue in Stock Island, Florida, on reports of domestic violence. When deputies arrived, Bricia and the victims, a 42-year-old man and his 6-year-old son, were present. A man told investigators that he attempted to leave with his son when Bricia bit him on the back. He then locked himself and the juvenile in a vehicle outside the residence. She then reportedly grabbed a knife and attempted to get inside the van and said she will kill them both. Bricia was taken into custody and held at the Monroe County Jail on a $165,000 bond. Authorities said that there was no life-threatening injuries reported. It's unclear what Bricia's relationship is with the victims or the motive behind the attack, as the investigation into the matter continues. A 26-year-old man is behind bars on 3 felony counts of battery against healthcare workers. On the morning of Thursday, the 18th of May, authorities responded to the St. Luke's Canyon View Behavioral Health Services in Twin Falls, Idaho, on reports of an out-of-control patient. Employees told police that 26-year-old Tyler Dominguez was making threats about self-harm and was throwing himself into a door. When employees tried to intervene, Tyler reportedly punched a security guard and spat on the faces of the security guard and a healthcare worker, as well as kicked the healthcare workers in the legs while being restrained. He's been held on a $50,000 bond. A 37-year-old woman was arrested after her 11-month-old daughter died after being left in a hot car for 3 hours while she officiated a church service. At around 1 p.m. on Sunday the 28th of May, authorities responded to a 911 call from the Mount of Olives Evangelical Church in Palm Bay, Florida, for an unresponsive baby. Investigators said that Belaine Moom left a baby in the car and she arrived late at the church for a service. The church service is run by Belaine and her pastor husband Jamark Moom, and other family members attend the congregation. Police said that Belaine thought that someone had brought her daughter into the church, but once the 3-hour service was over, Belaine did not see the baby inside the building, so she went to a car and found an unresponsive child strapped into the car seat. Paramedics performed CPR on the child before rushing her to the Palm Bay Community Hospital, where she was pronounced dead. As the temperatures reached around 79 degrees Fahrenheit, the internal temperature of the car reached far higher, at roughly 120 degrees Fahrenheit. On Thursday the 1st of June, Belaine was arrested and booked into the Brevard County Jail and is charged with aggravated manslaughter of a child. She was released the next day after posting a $15,000 bond. The investigation into the matter continues. A missing woman was found dead and on fire in Alabama after she left to buy something from a seller on Facebook Marketplace. At around 4 p.m. on Wednesday the 31st of May, mother of 31-year-old Jamira Ivory Fowler left her home in the 500 block of 41st Street North in Birmingham, Alabama to meet up with someone to make a purchase from Facebook Marketplace, but she never returned. At around 9 p.m. on Thursday the 1st of June, police received reports of a burning body on the side of the street along Sellers Road in Roebuck, roughly 6 miles from where Jamira was last seen. Police and firefighters arrived at the scene and found a woman's body still on fire and worked to extinguish the flames. Officers observed visible signs of trauma on the victim. The medical examiners later identified the body to be that of Jamira and said she had been shot before being set on fire. Her death has been ruled a homicide. Jamira's vehicle was found at a separate location, but authorities have not stated where that location was. Authorities have said they're unable to confirm whether Jamira's death was a result of the Facebook Marketplace meetup at this time, and the motive in the killing remains unclear. No arrests have been made to date, as the investigation into the matter continues. A man fatally shot his partner, the infant daughter, and wounded another girl before taking his own life along the banks of a river. At around midday on Saturday the 3rd of June, authorities responded to a duplex home at 124 Elkins Street in Franklin, New Hampshire, and reports of shots fired. One neighbour reported hearing at least 5 gunshots. When officers arrived, they found 35-year-old Nicole Hughes and 18-month-old daughter Ariel Bell deceased from multiple gunshot wounds, and the deaths were ruled a homicide. A second child, who was 5 years old, was at the scene and suffered from a gunshot wound to her right arm and a laceration to her back. She was taken to a local hospital with non-life-threatening injuries and was treated and released. Authorities said she's staying with an extended family as she recovers. Authorities immediately identified 42-year-old Jamie Bell as the shooter. He had fled the scene and an extensive search began for him. The New Hampshire State Police helicopter and the SWAT team responded to the area, with multiple law enforcement agencies joining the search. At around 5:30 p.m, Jamie was found dead on the banks of the nearby Merrimack River, with a single self-inflicted incised wound to his neck. An autopsy determined that he took his own life. The New Hampshire Attorney General's office described Jamie as an intimate partner of Nicole and the father of the girl he shot to death. The department said that the 5-year-old girl is Nicole's daughter from a different relationship. Jamie has a criminal past. He's been jailed multiple times over the last 15 years for convictions relating to assaults, burglaries, DUIs, weapon charges, drug charges and more. The motive behind the triple shooting remains unclear as the investigation into the matter continues. A man is behind bars after allegedly fatally shot his son over the weekend. At around 2:30 p.m. on Saturday the 3rd of June, authorities responded to a home at 2518 Ralph Avenue in Shively, Kentucky, and reports of shots fired. When officers arrived at the scene, they found 21-year-old Jordan Qualls had been shot inside the residence and he had died at the scene. Police arrested Jordan's father, 59-year-old William Calls, in connection with the shooting and charged him with murder. Investigators said that when they got there, the suspect was outside the house with his hands up. William's mother told police that an argument happened between the three of them and a son shot a grandson during it. William told police that while he was downstairs, he heard Jordan arguing with his grandmother and his sister. He said he went upstairs to calm everyone down, but after returning downstairs, he said he continued to hear arguing and he got his handgun from his bedroom. William said that he then went to the kitchen and saw his mother, Jordan's grandmother, on the floor, and that's when he shot his son in the head. William is set to be arraigned at 9 a.m. on Monday. Gas station owner 58-year-old Rick Chow is accused of chasing 14-year-old Cyrus Carmack Belton from his store and fatally shooting him after he was mistaken for shoplifting. The incident occurred at just after 8 p.m. on Sunday the 28th of May at 7441 Park Lane Road in Columbia, South Carolina. Rick believed the teen stole 4 bottles of water from his Express Smart Shell station, but authorities say the boy put the bottles back in the cooler. Following a verbal confrontation, he exited the business and ran away. Rick and his son chased Cyrus towards a nearby apartment complex, where the teenager fell down and got back up. Rick's son told his dad that Cyrus had a gun, when the store owner fatally shot Cyrus once in the back, piercing his heart. The wound caused hemorrhaging and significant damage to Cyrus's heart. He was taken to hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Investigators found a gun several feet from where the teen was shot. However, there was no evidence that Cyrus ever pointed a gun at Rick or his son. Investigators also said that Rick did not fear for his life when he shot Cyrus. Richland County Sheriff Leon Lott said they have reviewed surveillance footage as part of the investigation. He said that there was no evidence that Cyrus stole anything whatsoever. Regardless, even if he had shoplifted 4 bottles of water, which is what he initially took out of the cooler and then put them back, even if he'd done that, that's not something you shoot anybody over, much less a 14-year-old. But you just don't do that, he said. Richland County Coroner Nadia Rutherford said there was no sign Cyrus fought Rick before he ran out of the store, and added that there was no injury to his body other than the abrasion from falling and the gunshot wound to his right lower back. On Monday the 29th of May, Rick was arrested and charged with murder. He's held at the Alvaness Glen Detention Centre, and bond has been denied. Hours later, rioters gathered at the gas station and vandalised the business and stole items from the store. The sheriff said that those who took part will be held responsible. The investigation into the matter continues. 34-year-old Zara Ferrer-Urolo is behind bars following a fatal shooting on Thursday night. At around 7:30 p.m. on the 25th of May, authorities responded to an apartment at 9610 Arrow Ridge Drive in Louisville, Kentucky on reports of a shooting. When officers arrived, they found a man inside the bedroom with a gunshot wound to the head. Medics pronounced him dead at the scene. He was identified as 66-year-old Jason Strongbringer. Investigators said that Jason reportedly hit Zara in the head with a wrapping paper roll during a verbal altercation. Upset, Zara then retrieved a handgun and shot the man in the head. Zara allegedly admitted to the crime and was arrested and charged with murder. Zara is held at the Louisville Metropolitan Department of Corrections with bond set at $250,000. The investigation into the matter continues. A man is behind bars and is accused of fatally shooting another man inside a motel room. At just after 10:30 p.m. on Wednesday the 24th of May, authorities responded to the Budget Motor Inn at 2151 North Jamestown Drive in Petersburg, Virginia on reports of an unresponsive man. When officers arrived, they found 54-year-old Brian Chambers with a gunshot wound and he was pronounced dead at the scene. During the investigation, authorities identified Raymond Ruffin, whose age has not been disclosed, as the suspect. On Wednesday the 31st of May, he was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, use of a firearm and possession of a firearm by a known felon. Brian, who was a travelling tattoo artist and painter, was well known to the Petersburg community. He was the owner of Bad Monkey Tattoo and went by the name of B-Train. Friends and clients remember Brian as a talented painter who loved to show off his art. Donna Guernsey said, "I just couldn't believe it. He was so full of life. He was amazingly talented. He came to us and he was awesome." She said he had been to her house just days before his death, and she showed off a new tattoo he did for her. Authorities have not disclosed the motive in the killing, as the investigation into the matter continues. A man and a woman are accused of beating a Sonic manager after incorrectly receiving jalapenos on a hot dog over the weekend. At around 7:30 p.m. on Saturday the 27th of May, Quintarius Simmons and Andres Briscoe arrived at the fast food restaurant at 81st Street and Lewis Avenue in Tulsa, Oklahoma with 2 other people and ordered a hot dog with a side of jalapeno poppers at the drive-thru. The group, however, received a hot dog with jalapenos on it, triggering an argument between them and the Sonic employees. The manager stepped in to try and defuse the situation, only for Quintarius to get out of the vehicle and attempt to enter the closed-off section of the restaurant. When the manager tried to stop him, Quintarius dragged the man outside and began beating him, punching him repeatedly and body slamming him to the ground. Andreas got out of the vehicle and joined in the fight, after still being upset at the order. Andreas then threw punches, but ended up hitting Quintarius more than she hit the manager. The manager was hospitalized with several injuries. The suspects were tracked down to the Red River apartment complex in Riverside, where they were arrested for aggravated assault and battery.